I'm not the first person to exploit these materials or use them in a repurposed manner, but because fly fishing is so ingrained with trying to conserve and be environmentally friendly, I thought that it was a great opportunity to do this.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Remote No Pressure Podcast. We're super excited, as always, to be here, aren't we, Bill?
We are. It's good to be back.
Yeah, Bill. So this week we're talking to one of our guests that's been on the podcast before. So it's really good to revisit Ross White.
Yeah, good interview.
Did you hear the initial interview we had with him?
I did. I don't remember exactly now because it's been a while.
I'm not going to put you on the spot, Bill. It's okay if you
Thank
say
you.
I never heard it.
No, I listen to every podcast, just not every week. I don't listen to the whole catalog every week. That'd consume a lot of time.
You know how many times I've edited out when I ask guests, "Oh, do you listen to our podcast?" Yeah. It's like, you're such a liar. Nah, just kidding. No, but Ross is great to come back, and we've actually done a partnership with Ross. So we have some sweet streamer wallets, which are amazing. And then I use the digital camo sling pack that he makes. And you've seen that.
I have.
What'd you think about it?
That's pretty sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, I always used vest before.
Yep. I use a pouch when I fish, but I like your pouch. I like your bag.
Yeah, my man purse.
Your man purse.
No.
You know, I'm not one to judge.
No, it's not a man purse. It's great. It's awesome. It's a sweet sling pack. It's digital camo. And then I took my wife out this week, and she used the maroon one.
Are you going to put that picture up?
I am going to put that picture up on, if you guys stay tuned. No, on our Instagram. on our Instagram, we'll put that up there. We'll put the picture of my wife fly fishing for the first time, which was really cool.
How did she like it?
She loved it. Now, I've been telling her for a while, go out and, try it out, go. And she's like, I don't know. And so I was like, hey, why don't you go fly fishing with me today? She's like, okay, yeah. And she's been asking me for a while. She's kind of wanted to go. So I gave her my 5mm neoprene waders, which the boots were super big, and she's flopping around. But she was a champ, and she loved it. And she wants to get her own waders. And
oh, that's awesome.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. So that was really a neat experience. It's going to be an
expensive hobby.
Yeah, but I can't really complain because I already spent so much money. Well, you've got that.
So now your hobby expenses have just doubled.
Exactly.
Because you can't just get things for yourself now. If you get something cool, you've got to get it twice.
That's right. But I don't mind.
Yeah.
At least, it's something fun to do.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, so she tried on the maroon pouch that we have, and it's pinkish hue to it. And that'll be in the picture, but it was really cool. So we've gotten together with them. So if you go to remotenopressure.com, you can see what we've partnered up. We also got the beer koozie, which you and I both have the beer koozie. What do you think of that?
I love that. It is so cool.
Yeah, I love it too. It's pretty sweet because you only have two hands. And Ross talks about that.
And you don't just have to use it for beer.
No, you don't. No,
you can have it for a water bottle or if you want to have soda on the river, which doesn't make sense. I mean, you could.
Right. Yeah, you could. You could do that. A water bottle's good. I've been trying to cut back a little bit on the beer side of things. The sugar's not good for you.
That's right.
But I enjoy one. But it was. But we at Trout Camp. I had that beer in my koozie.
Yep.
I never opened it because it was so cold outside. I'm like, oh my gosh, But I was like, I'm gonna try this thing. So I got one of those. What was it? What kind of beer was it?
It was Two Hearted.
Two Hearted, yeah, Two Hearted. Named after a river in Michigan, by the way. But yeah, so I had a Two Hearted, and it was super cold, and I put it in there, and it stayed cold, but it was also very cold outside.
It was in the 40s.
I didn't even open it.
Till the bonfire later.
Yeah, till the bonfire later. But I needed some coffee. I need some hot coffee. I guess you could put like a coffee carafe in the thing.
It'd have to be kind of a small one.
Yeah. Yeah, it would have to be a small one. But
maybe we can roll out a whole line of different koozies for different size
beverages.
Yeah.
Or you could just make them out of recycled waders. Oh, wait, that's what Ross does.
Oh, hey, now we're talking.
Yeah. Anyways, well, yeah, it's super great to have Ross back, and his company is growing. He's been featured in the Drake with his company since the last time we talked to him, and it's just really cool to see him using recycled materials such as waders and also sails. Are you a sailor, Bill?
I am not.
You're not a sailor?
I am not a sailor. I do a little bit of light kayaking. That's about it.
That's about
Just
it?
on flat water, yeah.
I've always wanted to be like a sailor, you know?
I went out on Lake Michigan this summer with a buddy who's got a big boat.
Uh-huh.
You and I both know this guy.
Yeah.
And the waves were crazy. Like we got out, we were in Saugatuck, and we just pulled out, and we had to turn right back around because the waves were too much. He said it was too dangerous, and that was a scary 5 minutes of turning around.
Quick story for you.
Yeah.
Speaking of scary times on the water.
Mm-hmm. Is this a Halloween story? Because
No.
Halloween's past us now.
Halloween's past, so I'm, people don't stare at me when I play Christmas music anymore, so
Good.
I'm really happy about that. No, but I remember when I was probably 12, maybe 13 years old, okay? And my father, we grew up on the Gulf Coast down in Texas, and the mouth of the Brazos River, where it goes into the Gulf of Mexico, back then, there was, depending on the tides, there's like an island out there, you know? And we would fish that island, and sometimes we would go like 8 or 9 miles offshore to fish the rigs, like the oil rigs, right? So we would fish like red snapper, like these great fish. So I remember one time we were going out, and we go out to the mouth of the Brazos, and we're heading out, and to our right there was a water spout, and we're surrounded by water. I mean, the shore is pretty far away, right? Like, oh crap, so we stopped the boat, and we're just like going to wait the thing out. Then there was another water spout to the left of us.
Now, a water spout, that's like a tornado, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a tornado on the water, which, I mean, the chances of us getting hurt by this thing is, pretty unlikely. Mm-hmm. But there's a water spout probably 200 yards to the right, 200 yards to the left of us. And then we look out for it, and there's one right in front of us as well.
Oh, crazy.
It was a weird feeling as a 12-year-old kid. You think I'm going to die like any minute. But eventually the storm passed. And I caught this huge a ling fish. They were circling the boat. And I thought it was a shark. I did, because, you're a 12-year-old kid. You're like, oh my gosh, I get tornadoes, sharks. I mean, this is a great epic tale.
That's how Sharknadoes come into existence.
I didn't even think about that.
It was a time before Sharknadoes. This
is a time before computer animation had gotten to that point. But, that's an excellent thing, Sharknado. So anyway, I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna throw. I think it was a shrimp or some live bait. It was before fly fishing was what it was. And my dad's like, boy, that fish is not gonna get that. And all of a sudden, this huge ling grabs onto the fish and just starts running with it. And I caught this. I bet it was probably 5 foot long.
Holy cow!
It's huge.
That's as big as you were back then.
Yeah. It took me forever, and they're like, "Are you sure you can reel that in?" Because it took forever, And I'm like, I'm not giving up this rod. This thing's coming in, And that was like one of those great stories, those epic trips.
And this was during the time of the water spouts at the same time.
No, that would be too cool.
So there I was between 3 water spouts catching this 5-foot ling.
The next thing you know, I saddle up that son of a gun and just ride it off into the sunset.
Rode it back to Texas.
Yeah, what are those things they put in the horse's mouth?
Bridles.
Yeah, I bridled that sucker up, put on next thing you know, I'm in a tornado. Like Pecos Bill. Did you ever read that story? Yeah, like Pecos Bill. Like, that's me right there. No, I'm not that cool. But anyways, Ross White is that cool. So we're very excited to have him here. We're very excited that he was able to make it and come on the show for us. And we thank you every week. Last week's episode with Caleb was awesome. We got a lot of great feedback on that. And we're very excited to be here with Ross and with Bill and all the things that are going on here. We have so much momentum. It's just great that everyone's a part of this. And so enjoy the podcast. Welcome to the podcast. Let's light the fire. Well, today on the Remote No Pressure podcast, I'm very excited because we have a repeat guest, Mr. Ross White. Thank you very much for joining us, Ross.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited about what's going on since the last time we talked at Deli Fresh Design. Now, you were featured in the Drake, right?
Correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you ended up in the Drake?
A year and a half ago at the Denver Flash Show, or the Denver Rendezvous, put on by Peter Stitcher from Ascent Fly Fishing. Just got to talking with Elliot, and so we spent some time on the water together, and just talked about my company, and he wrote an excellent article for the website, and the response was very positive from it.
That's great. So you saw some great business coming out of that.
Yeah, and then for the last couple of months, we've been advertising through the Drake podcast, and seeing good positive feedback from that. Through sales as well as people coming forward and being interested in what we do. A big part of what we've been doing over the last 6 months is exploring more alternative materials and things that are repurposed and recycled, that are much more economical and environmentally friendly, especially since a big part of fly fishing is trying to conserve and reduce waste, whereas like most things, most conventionally made products create a lot of waste. So we'd rather keep it out of the environment, just because fishing is so dependent on a positive environment.
What are some of those materials that you're using, Ross, and how do you source those things?
So one of the things that we've been using that's been really successful is recycled or repurposed waders. So everybody who fly fishes at some point or another has to get a pair of waders. You can't always wet wade, and most waders have a shelf life, or sort of an expected lifespan, whether that's a year, 3 years, 5 years, 6 years. Eventually, through the course of your career or through your lifetime as a fly fisherman, you're going to have to replace those waders. And most waders end up in landfill once you throw them away and replace them. And so, whether it's if you return them to the company that you got them at, and they give you a replacement, or you go and buy new waders, that all of that is ending up in the landfill at one point or another. And so, what we're trying to do is either talking to companies that have return policies like that, see if we can take some of that and take it out of the environment, and then put it. So we're trying to take it out of the environment. Take it away from the landfills that can potentially pollute water and other things, or just the ozone through noxious gases and things like that are just not good for the environment. And just to overall reduce my impact as a company, or our impact as a company, as well as just the overall environmental impact. But so what we do is we have a sort of a program where if you have an old pair of waders, you've replaced them, but you haven't thrown them away yet, we'd love to take those, and we offer anybody the opportunity to either receive either a fly wallet or a couple of koozies back from that exchange. So I definitely want to compensate someone, or if they want to make a purchase of something else that isn't a bigger purchase than that, I would always encourage them to do so, and I give people who give me a pair of waders 20% off. So anybody who drops off a pair of waders, mails me a pair, I'm happy to send them some cool gear, like a beer koozie made out of those waders, those personal waders of that person, or give them that 20% off for something else. And in that way, we're kind of recycling and then sort of creating a whole circular 360, creating new product and then giving it back to the people that are part of creating the material for me, instead of just throwing it away. So on top of that, we also use all the interior of every fly wallet uses this green turquoise material, woven fabric that was originally sourced from plastic bottles that were then woven into fabric. And then we also use sailcloth, and sailcloth, much like waders, has a shelf life or a lifetime expectancy of maybe a couple of years. So every sailboat has a tieback sail, and after a certain point it becomes ineffective or wears out, and so it gets thrown away. And most of the time, like old waders, it gets thrown away into landfill that could potentially be sources of pollution. And then so we use it in beer koozies, fly wallets, you name it, we use it. And the added benefit is that overall added benefit is that we reduce the amount of environmental impact by creating new materials. There's such a huge environmental cost, whether it's dyes, chemicals, the amount of water that's wasted in creating fabrics, and especially it keeps it in the rivers, hopefully keeps it cold, or keeps it in the rivers, keeps it from being polluted, and comes back around to the fish and the fishermen. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it was a couple of years back was the first time I actually went out sailing, and I didn't realize that sails, and it was on a racing team. And they explained to me the difference between racing sails and, having I didn't realize that they wore out. That wasn't a concept that I was really familiar with because I was relatively new to sailing.
Sure.
But
yeah, I mean,
that's
I didn't
a huge
know
deal.
Until recently too. Every shipyard has a pile of wasted waders that are eventually just going to go in a dumpster and then to landfill. So
and it's pretty sturdy material, isn't it? Even though it doesn't keep wind. I mean, it's pretty sturdy.
It's a pretty sturdy, lightweight material. I mean, it's designed to take a beating from 50, 60, probably 100 mile per wind. At the worst case, and it's all intentionally designed so that it'll push something forward that's thousands of pounds in weight. But yeah, and it's a super lightweight. It's mostly white, and it's pretty neat stuff. But we use it in whether it's internal pockets for bags, like internal sling packs, or backpacks, different compartments for those, and it really works well. And some of the bags I've been using it as like a lining material instead of using ripstop, which I source as a new material. So if I can reduce the amount of ripstop I use by using sailcloth, I'll do it.
Well, I've always been a vest guy. I've always fly fished with a vest. And I picked up one of your sling packs, the R&P pack that we did together. And I can honestly say that it has changed my life. I love it. Good. I swear by it. It's the most amazing thing I've ever used. And I'm not saying that, whatever, but just I'm saying it because I truly believe in it. And
thank you.
Like fishing with a sling pack. Well, I've never used anybody else's sling pack, but this one here is so lightweight. And the strap, what I like about the strap, it's very comfortable. It doesn't rub my neck the wrong way. It's pretty lightweight. It's really cool. It's got the orange on the inside. I don't know. It's really cool. I get lots of compliments. I got the digital camo version, and that's the one I use the most. And, man, I can honestly say that it rocks, man. It's a great pack. I love it.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear it.
Now, I know, look, in the environment, and we all are about conservation, and we want to do what's best for the environment, for our fisheries and things like that. But one thing I want to ask you this, I know this is not the case, but sure, the saving the environment, and that's kind of that could be a company's angle, right? They're like, hey, if we hop on this conservation train, maybe we'll sell a few more units and pull on the heartstrings of anglers. I know that's not you, Ross, but can you tell me why are you so motivated for conservation? What is it about that really sparks a fire inside of you, Ross?
Well, I mean, as like someone who up until very much was my model for the probably like the better part of last year, and when I was kind of getting things going and formulating design ideas, I didn't really think it was possible mainly because I think there was, I had to explore and spend thousands of dollars in developing or buying and developing products or materials and fabrics in China that had to be processed and created out of, taking a plastic or a raw material or a bottle and then waving the fabric myself or having someone do that. So as a small company, I didn't think that was possible. And as someone who's, maybe it doesn't always necessarily see, I've always had like anybody who, I can only put so much time and effort into things, or I just buy a membership to you and that's it. I felt like there was, that just didn't seem like enough. Or as a company, I just don't think that just contributing money is a way to give back. I think as anglers, we can do so much more, whether it's just, even if it's not just regular pickups with TU memberships or your groups. I think you can do anything and everything you can on an individual basis where, every time you go fishing, you pick up 10 pieces of trash, or, by instead of, driving your car every day to work, you just use it on the car, on the weekends when you go fishing. You explore other methods, of how to give back to the environment so you can fish. And so like I very much, as someone who has decided to live in Colorado and doesn't have a car, I think that, my by not having a car, I have reduced my impact on the environment, which is a very, specific thing where it's like I know I have because I've done it. And those are very things that are true to myself, and that I think there's ways of giving back, but it's not just by putting money. And so maybe about it at the beginning of this year, I was exploring ways, and sort of happenstance, I realized that there was ways in which I could give back, and that's through using things like sailcloth from a different recreational activity like sailing. And then the other thing that I found out that another waste material, a material that just wears out like waders or sailcloth that we've been using is climbing rope. So whether it's in the handles or straps and things on the bags, we're using repurposed climbing rope. And much like waders, they wear out, but a climbing rope is designed to keep someone alive who's climbing a mountain if they should fall. But it has a lifespan. So most climbing gyms, keep ropes for X number of usages, and then they throw it away. So there's a number of recreational activities. Climbing is a huge recreational activity, but what doesn't get talked a lot about in these things is these activities is how much impact we put on the environment, not just by being out there, whether it's fishing and the amount of waste we put out on the water, or the amount of destruction of a natural resource like a rock face. And so in these sports, there's going to be waste, but I think that, and how I came about it was, I just saw that these were things that could be used in my bags. And instead of just saying, I need to develop all these cool new fabrics, there's fabrics that already exist that don't need to be remade or made anew. And so I thought, why not try to incorporate those into my bags? And that's what we've done.
Yeah, that's fascinating because, I never really thought about the whole climbing. I'm not a rock climber, and
Yeah.
I live in a cornfield. There's not a lot of rocks to be climbed here, but man, I can just imagine just yards and yards and miles of climbing rope and the sails, and man, that's a lot. Like, yeah, I don't need the climbing rope to protect me. Maybe it's expired and I shouldn't be climbing Mount Everest with it, but it could hold my sling pack up pretty well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I'm not the first person to exploit these materials or use them in a repurposed manner, but because fly fishing is so ingrained with trying to conserve and be environmentally friendly, I thought that it was a great opportunity to do this. There's all these things too of by locally sourcing something. I can ride my bike to a fly shop that just had a bunch of return waders, pick them up, ride my bike back to my studio, and I don't have to, the amount of cost and energy is very minimal, opposed to waiting for something to come here that was developed or built in China and got on a boat and spent 6 months, getting to me. I can relatively make something that's a complete product in a short amount of time. And I think there's something to be said for that. And I think sort of trying to keep it closer to the source, or where it's close to being close to the source, and also close to potentially where people are going to use it is a huge way to give back to a sport that's given me a lot.
Yeah, that's great. Those are all awesome points. And by you not having a car and what you're doing, I mean, it sounds like you truly are committed to the cause. It's not just an angle that you're trying to sell more product.
Yeah. I think that I don't think there's I think there's, whether a company's intentions are good or not, if they're doing something for the environment, I think that's a positive thing.
Oh, sure.
But I think it's, I wouldn't have chosen to use this stuff if I didn't think it was interesting and worth my investment. To use materials that aren't necessarily perfect or uniform, but have more unique characteristics by having original seams in a koozie or things like that speak to the character of where the product's been. That it's, you could be drinking a beer in a koozie that's made out of waders that someone else was fishing or standing in a river as well. So there's this sort of continuous full circle that the lifespan of that koozie might be 10 years or 20 years, depending on how long you use it or decide to keep it, or if it just falls apart. But the fact that it had a life before being a koozie as a pair of waders, I think is pretty cool.
Well, I hope you're enjoying the podcast. I just want to take a minute to talk about one of our partners here, Flood Tide. And I don't know if you guys listened to Paul Puckett's episode last season, but his company has so graciously offered our listeners a 25% discount with the coupon code remote no pressure at checkout. No spaces, just remote no pressure, and you'll get a 25% discount at checkout. Again, floodtideco.com, and check out the stuff. And some of the things I like, I obviously love hats, because I don't have epic hair like some of these people have on the podcast, that are amazing. So I like wearing hats. I don't always feel like doing my hair, what little I have left. So go over there, check out some of their hats, check out some of their shirts. They've got some awesome things going on there. Again, floodtideco.com. Type in remote no pressure and the coupon code at checkout and get 25% off because you're awesome and you listen to our podcast. Let's get back to the show.
I don't want to just be, strike gold right now and then live with the consequences later. I'd rather thoughtfully grow the company and make it to the point where it's sustainable and not just for myself, but potentially for other employees.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Sometimes those overnight success stories end up being horror stories in the end, or selling out to something, and by going slowly and taking your time and doing it the right way, I think you got some great success ahead of you. So you're still working at the museum then, right?
I am not. It's been a long time since we talked. I work at a fly fishing store downtown in Denver. And then I've been, just about a year since I left the Denver Art Museum. They were looking to lay people off for a big renovation, and I took the opportunity to leave, kind of devote more time and effort to the company. And I think because I've been spending more time doing that, I think a lot of the cool things that I've been developing and making have reflected in the last year or so. Changing the design or revamping the design of the fly wallets, making beer koozies. Right now, I'm kind of coming up with a new design for the reel bags, as well as I just recently made it looks a lot like a koozie, but it's a little cinch top pouch. So a big thing that contributes to the waste on the rivers that gets into the water is fluorocarbon and monofilament tippet snips. And so I've made little pouches or cinch top bags that ideally you can collect all of your wasted tippet material by putting it in there instead of putting it on the water. And so there's all these little things that I think can be a positive thing. And who doesn't want to drink a beer on the river and, be able to cast and hold a beer and who wants to, there's only so many hands we have, and one's got a rod and the other one's going to have a net potentially. And so why not, there's this pretty cool, awesome idea of, why not carry a beer in the middle, on around your neck. It's pretty useful, so. Yeah.
And we're doing a remote, no pressure beer koozie and fly wallet with you. So in partnership. So if people go to our website at remotenopressure.com, you can check out the beer koozies. Buying one of those is going to definitely help our podcast and what we're doing in our vision. It's going to be giving back to the environment. It's also going to help Ross and who's been on here before, and we love him and we love his company and what he's doing. So we really appreciate you partnering up with us and our listeners to to spread the word about what you're doing too, because what you're doing is really cool, man. And the idea that it's it's a smaller company, but it's up and coming, and you're doing it because you're really passionate about it. And every time I talk to you, Ross, that comes across that this is not something you're doing. You're not trying to be the next what's his name, Elon Musk, or you're just trying to make a great product and do what you love to do. Now that you're not at the museum anymore, now that you're 100% into the fly fishing gig, doing Deli Fresh Design and also working there at the fly shop, do you find more fulfillment in your life, or do you sometimes miss the museum gig?
I don't miss the museum. The added income was nice, but I think, my life's much more enriched by being able to do what I do and what I love every day. I think we talked about the last time, whereas that I might not spend every day on the water as a guide, but I do spend a lot of time thinking about fishing and what people are going to do with their products. Getting feedback from customers and clients that are super excited. I mean, to hear you rave about the bag is really enriching to my life, and I think that's really cool. So, I didn't get in this to get rich, but certainly to be able to to pay my own expenses and to sustain myself, or employ myself in a company and doing something that I really enjoy was the goal. And I think it's been very satisfying over the last year to do that. But it's not without its hurdles of owning my own small business. Nothing's easy with owning a business on your own, but I think overall the reward has been positive. And it has been good. It's like with anything, there's challenges, but in the uphill battle, there's some rewards along the way, and it's been overall positive. So
one of the questions I wanted to ask you, and I think I asked you this on the first episode, but for people who may not know, how did you come up with the name Deli Fresh Design?
Sort of a long progression of things. I think that its genesis, it was an idea I came up with in college. Thought it would be just a cool name for a company. It sort of evolved from this, that, or the other, and I kind of designed the logo and things, and the sort of the whole genesis of the Deli Fresh Design as a company, not just the name. Was sort of the idea that I thought that there was a lot of interesting products out there for fishing, but I thought there was sort of things that were lacking that I wanted out of a product. And so I started to develop my own designs and come up with ideas. And so that's what it really came to. And I thought that I've got this cool idea of a name for a product or a name for a company. I'm making these bags. It seemed only natural to put the two together. But the original idea for Deli Fresh Design, or the name, was that I've spent a good chunk of my time or my life on the East Coast, living in New York, and I've always loved the aesthetic and the thoughts behind delicatessen, naturally. I thought that would be a fun name. and what's fresher than a deli, and good food and things like that. And so it was a source of inspiration. That's where it came from and developed.
Well, that's really cool. Well, thank you very much, Ross, for spending some time with us. Like I said, we have some of Ross's products on our website at remote-no-pressure.com, some of the beer koozies and also the fly wallets. But also, what's your website address, Ross, if someone wants a product directly from you?
So it's just www.delifreshdesign.com, and we're on Instagram at Deli Fresh Design. Check us out.
Well, that's great. Well, we'll put all those links up in the show notes. And as always, it was great catching up. Thank you so much, Ross. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great to talk to you as well.
Cool. Well, thank you, Ross, and thank you for joining us on another week of the Remote No Pressure podcast. It's always good to be here. And next week, our episode features an artist outside of LA who's become a Texan. Can you figure that one out? Until next time, go fishing.